let's talk about some Kemba candidates. These are guys in March Madness that can take over the world. We've seen it with guys like Marquise Noel, Jimmer Fredette, Kemba Walker. These guys don't even have to win the national title. They don't have to be on 14, 15 seeds, 7 seeds. They can be on the number one team in the country. It's just which guy is going to take over March Madness from that guard position. I'll start with you, Cole. Who do you got?
All right. So this is one that came to me a couple of weeks ago. It's not like it was during a specific game I was watching. It's Walter Clayton.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that, I mean, like a Kemba candidate can be on one of the best teams in college basketball, and that's completely fine. But it was watching him play without Elijah Martin that really made me like kind of fall in love with Walter Clayton a little bit more than I kind of had in the past. And Florida, they are starting to play some really, really good basketball. They did just lose to Georgia, but I'm still obviously like a huge believer in their backcourt because it's like they've got like a three-headed guard backcourt that is very good with a lot of experience and guys that have been playing college basketball for a while. And I don't know, it's just something about Walter Clayton, especially watching him. It's not even necessarily a Kemba candidate. It just reminds me of Shabazz. It's like, I could totally see him taking over, but it's like, you know, it is always tricky when it comes to like a Kemba candidate because you want somebody that's like under the radar, but I don't know. I just see it with Walter Clayton. And another thing I want to mention with like a Kemba candidate, they need a good backcourt because it's like, that's what gets so lost. And we were talking about that before we started, you know, it's like, that's what gets lost with a Kemba candidate. It's not necessarily somebody that just takes over the game by themselves. They've got to have a good backcourt because Kemba had Shabazz, he had Jeremy Lamb. And then even when Shabazz took over himself in 2014, he had Brian Boatwright. So it's like, you need a good backcourt.
Yeah, and on top of that, too, I think any national title team, you got to have two guards to win in March. That's just the name of the game. You look at any of these teams, like you mentioned, those UConn teams, Louisville with Siva and Russ Smith, Duke with Tyus Jones, Quinn Cook, all those Villanova teams. So you got to have those two-guard backcourts. You need that supporting cast. So I think you're right. That's somewhat important in picking a Kemba candidate. Ben, who do you got?
I got PJ Haggerty.
Okay, I love that one. He was on my list too.
I had that one written down too, yeah.
Guys, he doesn't get talked about like as much as I think he should. That guy is so damn good. Mm-hmm. He's just straight cold. And I think like maybe it's a little bit of like kind of confirmation bias throughout the season, but like in Maui, I was like, this is one of those guys. Like if they make the tournament, like I like him because of PJ Haggerty. And that's not even counting, right? We talked about they need to be surrounded by guys that kind of support that. His running mate is Tyrese Hunter. He's a solid, experienced guard in college basketball. I mean, if you look at the stats with PJ Haggerty, I mean, he's averaging 21 points this year off of about 50% shooting from the field, 42.4% from three, and about 79% from the line. I love him because also like with Kemba candidates, they're not really guys where you're like super obvious always. You know what I mean? Like no one knew Carson Edwards was going to be that good. No one knew Marquise Noel was going to be that good. Or at least obviously they were guys who were good all season, but they're not the ones who are talked about usually. And so I think PJ Haggerty like fits that to a T. So I like him. He's my number one.
Yeah, I like PJ Haggerty a lot. He was on my list, and he can just light it up. I mean, if you told me in a 7-10 game with Memphis he put up 40 points in the first round, it wouldn't shock me. That's how special he can play. I'll go with mine. This one, I think people are going to be pointing towards this guy in March. I believed in him last year, and I got burned, and I'm still going to ride this train because I think this dude is just electric when I watch him. It's Josh Hubbard out of Mississippi State. This dude can light it up.
He was on my list.
On a team that wants to slow it down and play gross basketball, he can be that guy that takes them over the top, and he can be so fun to watch in March. It's just Izzo put that team in hell last year. That was an awful first round. I think it was an 8-9 game if I remember.
Yeah,
that was terrible, but doesn't matter. It's this year, new year, playing a tough SEC. He's been awesome, averaging 18 points per game. Josh Hubbard is my guy going in, and we have a couple others. Cole, do you have another guy you want to bring up for a Kemba candidate, potential Kemba candidate?
Yeah. So it's hard because it's like you want to go with a very under the radar, because like a Hubbard, for example, is a great, and even Haggerty. I mean, even though he's been like so electric this year, but I feel like another one I would say, because they're like oddly enough they're losing a lot of games recently, so it's like maybe they could flip the switch once
We might
their
have the same
conference tournament
person.
starts. Maybe you guys look at these smiles. I love this.
Yeah.
This is why I love college basketball. It just gets you. It gets a smile out of you just talking about ball. It's Cam Jones.
Okay.
All right, so that wasn't what you guys were thinking.
He's not on my list, but he came across my mind.
Yeah,
they are a team that it feels like you look up and look at the score. I mean, obviously they won last night. I know they won by a lot last night against Providence.
Yeah,
they're a team that like I keep looking up and going, "Oh, they lost today. Oh, they lost today." But yeah, Cam Jones was fantastic in like November, December. Sorry, don't mean to steal the spotlight. Go ahead.
No problem at all. It's weird though, because it's like I don't necessarily find myself being a believer in Marquette, because they just remind me of like their past year's teams. I even feel like their past year's teams with Kolek were better, but I don't know. They're just flying like under the radar, and I feel like they're gonna drop a couple of seed lines, and they have a backcourt that literally just won't turn the ball over. And like they get like him and Stevie Mitchell, that's a backcourt that you would that checks the box when it comes to a Kemba candidate, and it's like that's where I'm buying into like him, for example, because I could see them landing at that 4, 5, 6 range spot and just kind of flying under the radar in the tournament. Heck, even if they keep losing, maybe they drop down to like a 7 seed or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they've just kind of got like, Shaka Smart would be that kind of coach, where it's like they want to be the underdog. I feel like maybe that's what's hurt them in the past like 3 seasons when it comes to, well, especially the past 2, not 2022. 2022, I don't think they were, but like 2023 and 2024. It's like 2023 they were a 2 seed, and even last year I can't remember if they were a 2 seed or a 3 seed. But
yeah, they were 2 against Western Kentucky. That was a fun first half.
Yeah,
shout out the Hilltoppers.
Yeah. Then absolutely the past 2 years they've been a 2 seed. They're not going to be a 2 seed this year. And I think that having a guard like Cam in a close game, put the ball in his hands. He doesn't even have to be the one that takes the final shot too, because he's got a good running mate. So that'd be my pick. Yeah, that's my pick.
I like Cam Jones a lot. I think that's a great pick, and I like how he's been flying under the radar. I mean, he was a first-team All-America kind of guy coming into this year. He was getting those kind of looks, and people aren't really talking about them as much. But I really like Marquette going into the Big East tournament, because I think everyone's consensus is going to be this is St. John's tournament to lose, and then people are going to be like, oh, it's going to be UConn, St. John's, because Danny Hurley's going to get there. Marquette might be the second best team out of the Big East, if we're being honest. It's them or Creighton, in my opinion. And so I like that pick with Marquette. Ben, do you have another one?
Yes, I do. Do you hear that fan in the background?
I do, yes.
Okay, I turned it off, but it hasn't shut off yet, and I've just been waiting for it to shut
Just keep going. It's all good.
Okay. I think the one I will go with, I've had a couple other ones that I really like, but if we're going to stay in the Big East, Stephen Ashworth. Oh. He's someone, just as a shooter, I just think he can absolutely light it up. I would not be shocked to see him get hot in this tournament. He's someone that, like, in the past, I feel like he's always been a great shooter, but he hasn't quite had that like moment in March on the teams he's been on. I feel like with Utah State and then Creighton last year, he didn't have like some like spotlight where he's taking over March Madness, like scoring 30 points off 7-8 threes. But I feel like he's someone who has the capability to do that.
Yeah, I don't hate that pick at all. I struggle sometimes with a guy like Stephen Ashworth, because I think the Kemba candidates need to have a really, really good handle, and they got to be able to handle the ball really well and shoot off the dribble a lot. And I think Stephen Ashworth kind of struggles creating his own shot at times, and he's having to run off big old Kalkbrenner screens. And so that's my trouble with him. I'll go with a guy. I've got 2 more I wanted to bring up. These are one of them is a very much a wild card, and we'll just go with that one next. This team has stunk recently. They have been terrible. They're fine. Honestly, if they keep going like this, they might find themselves playing in Dayton. It's been that bad recently. But I still believe in this guy so much, and I believe in the coach, and I still believe in a lot of the players on this roster. I believe in VJ Edgecombe can be a guy in March that turns it on, and we go, oh, this is the guy we've been waiting for. This is the NBA draft prospect we've been hoping to see. He takes his big leap in March. He's got a guy like Jeremy Roach next to him, and Wright, and also Norshad Amir, who's been there, and Scott Drew, who's won a freaking national title. They've got a team that I feel like is built for March. But recently, the body language has been so bad. They lose to a butthole Colorado team. I mean, they're terrible in Boulder right now. But in Baylor, the trajectory's going way down. I think this might be a sneaky buy-in spot at Baylor. Maybe VJ Edgecombe just shocks the world in March Madness. So he's a guy to watch out for, in my opinion, Cole.
Yeah, that's why I give you props too for coming up with like a name like that, because it's like it's so easy to just get lost in the sauce of the high elite level players that are just dominating. It's like you've come up with two very good like buy low, sell high when it comes to if they can go off in March. I feel like another one, here I go again with these big names. Another one, for example, that like I'm really buying into would be John Tonje, because I don't know, he just has such good control of like the game. Now he's not like, for example, a little guard like Marquise Noel or like Carson Edwards, but I don't know. You can just put the ball in his hands, and he's got a good running mate in John Blackwell. That'd be another one. It's just tough. And also another thing that we should throw out there too, especially because you guys dropped both Noel and Edwards. Like a Kemba Candidate doesn't have to make a Final Four.
No.
It's like, yeah, like they can make an Elite Eight, but it's like they make the noise along the way, where it's like, because it's like, again, that's where it gets so tough with March, because it's like you could very well have seen both those teams, Kansas State in 2023 and then Purdue in 2019, even win a national championship potentially. It's just they get caught on the wrong night against a pretty good team, and it just ends, and not everybody gets their fairy tale Cinderella moment, it's like. So
yeah, or it's like with Jimmer Fredette, your big man, knocks up a chick, and then you don't have your center for March Madness. Those things can happen in March. Will they happen now? Probably not. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think a Sweet 16 run is the bare minimum for this, though.
Yeah,
I was gonna say second weekend. I feel like for sure.
Yeah, like Jack Goldke became a legend just because, I mean, look, those two games were just awesome. And let's be honest, the winner of NC State Oakland, it didn't matter. The fact that it was a close overtime game, like both those teams won that game, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. God, I'm gonna have to go watch those highlights after this, just to get me fired up.
I'm gonna have to like look up one of those YouTube videos where it's like highlights from every game in the 2024 NCAA tournament.
Oh,
just have that on for 30 minutes while I'm supposed to be working.
One complaint I had about last year is not enough buzzer beaters for me. I think this year we are due for a lot more buzzer beaters.
I agree.
I think, like, what was it? Florida, Colorado was basically our only one.
And that kind of gets forgotten about, too.
Man, what a game that one was.
Might have been
a great
game of the tournament.
That was a great
It was a great game, but my mind just goes first round, Oakland, Kentucky.
Yep. You don't think about like Duke versus James Madison?
That was second round.
Who did Duke play in the first round?
They played Vermont.
That's it.
Vermont.
That's it.
And then JMU. JMU beat Wisconsin.
Yep, that's right.
I forgot about that. That was like the most uneventful because I think everyone picked that.
Yeah, I think they did too.
Yeah.
Going through this, we'll wrap up here in a second with the Kemba Candidate stuff. A couple other guys. Chucky Hepburn from Louisville, can he be a guy?
That's an interesting name to throw out there. I can see that a little bit. Just their style. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's going to take over a game, but I think that like he could be the leading figurehead in maybe a little bit of a run for Louisville. It's great. It's great they're good again. I mean, I don't know if you guys have a personal opinion, but like as somebody that kind of grew up in the area of Kentucky and Ohio, I like to see these teams all be good, and it's been pretty cool to see Louisville become. I think they're projected to be the 2 seed overall in the ACC tournament. And it's just like, can you imagine saying that last year? You know,
yeah, them and Miami just hey, let's switch spots here real quick. Let's be the Miami's like, let's please be the doormat. Kenny Payne, you want to come be our next head coach?
Yeah, but yeah, I can see that. That's another good name.
Can I throw out another one?
Yeah.
What about Jace Richardson?
Oh, I don't hate that.
That's one of the major ones I was thinking has been lacking in our discussion so far. That guy's awesome. And he's gotten a lot better over the course of the last month or so. Like, he's changed my perception of Michigan State a little bit. Because before it was just kind of like some experience, some young guys that play hard-nosed Tom Izzo basketball. But like, one guy has emerged as like, oh, this is like an NBA guy. And I think that's the thing that was missing for him. I'm still not sure if I put them at the top of my Big Ten mix, but like, he's someone that has me second guessing my opinion of not thinking they're quite talented enough. They've got that NBA guard who can go create his own shot and can shoot the ball.
That's such a good point. And man, like, to real quickly just talk about Michigan State. I just feel like there's some magic there with them. I don't know, maybe Izzo might retire after the season. Maybe that's why. But it's like, after watching all their celebrations, after all their wins, I don't know. Sometimes you can just kind of see a story coming. And maybe this is a year where they do make that run. Because it's like they've not had that since 2019. And it just feels like they're constantly knocking out the door of maybe this is the year they make another run, you know? It's like, but that's a good point, because you always need like an NBA level player to take you to the top. And especially his emergence as a freshman, you know, that's a really good name drop.